Right then, hello everyone, the Series 2 finale for Waterloo Road, which means it's also the Series 2 finale for this podcast. So, absolute big melting pot of things today. So I actually made a lot of notes on my phone, but a lot of them are kind of the way I will talk about them, I think they'll sort of merge together. So even though it seems like a lot, it's not objectively too much, I don't think. So the episode opens with Andrew seeing the big Jesus mural on the wall or painting that what's he called, Jerry must have got the kids to do or painted or bought in or what have you. So that kind of sets up the conflict for the episode. It's the vision for the school. This Jerry wants to make it very much a creationist approach all the way through. He doesn't care if the LEA kicks off. He doesn't care about Ofsted visits. He's got ways around it. He's got an academy which has got a bunch of brainwashed people trying to teach this, in commas, science to the kids. It's not at all what they want, but it is what it is. This again leads nicely into the early Bible reading with Mr. Preston that they do. So the kids and Mr. Preston are reading Bible together. They're talking about it. He's pushing this propaganda on them. He's saying that it's Siobhan's fault for taking drugs and that she's probably going to end up in hell unless she can wake up from the coma and repent. The whole thing just kind of it fits Jerry, but it's all relatively cringy. And again, this leads on to the biggest major conflict. So all the way through this episode, everything that Jerry's doing is kind of pushing this big agenda that he has, this big religious belief system which is needed. So Jerry believes that this is the only way, that science isn't a thing, that the dinosaurs are dragons, like I said before. The Earth's only been around for a few thousand years, all that jibber jabber. Like I said in the last episode, if anyone does have a strong faith, then I have the utmost respect for you. I'm really not trying to upset anyone or alienate anyone with this podcast. This really is just sort of my opinion on it, and the way that it's structured. It's like this kind of school. Sure, they might teach religious studies as a GCSE or an A level, but it's very much like a state school. It's not like in my hometown, there was a private school, a religious one called St. John's, and it's not that. So it's kind of that. It all sort of culminates in Miss Dickey's funeral. But hold on, before I get to that, there was another point I just remembered which relates to it. So Steph gets super duper jealous of the whole Jack and Davina thing. They're back on, and ultimately she's not happy about it. So she tells Roger and Jerry. I don't know why I can't remember Jerry's name. It keeps dropping out of my head whenever I'm not talking about him, which is weird because he's a comical character and I think he's funny. Jerry basically kicks off and calls Davina a Jezebel, tells Jack that she needs to be gone, that she's a cancer that needs to be removed from the school, because Steph talks about her cleavage and how it's like distracting all of the teenage boys. I mean, there is probably some truth in that. I mean, hormonal boys and Davina, it does make sense. Not saying it's right or that it's good, but it probably is a factor. Let's be honest about that. So yeah, that's all sort of going on. And then, so this leads on to the assembly. So they have a memorial assembly to talk about Miss Dickey, to talk about Lorna. Jerry stands up and does what people think is just going to be a bog standard prayer for poor Miss Dickey, but he shovels it and snowballs it into something quite horrific. He talks about how she didn't have the strength to continue, how God tested her and she failed, about Siobhan in the coma and all this. You can see Andrew, Kim, Tom, Izzy, everyone's finding it super duper awkward. Andrew says, Jack, you need to do something about this. Jack doesn't. Jack just sits there awkwardly. I get Jack's in a difficult position because the school could use the funding, but equally he's kind of selling his morals a little bit. And then Andrew basically kicks off and is like, no, and basically stands up to Roger, says what everyone's thinking. I really rate this scene. I think all of Andrew's points are good, and it really does knock this annoying Jerry down a notch. But like all of the kids sort of applaud him, all the kids are backing him. I just think it's quite a good character journey for Andrew, because when we start off, he's the stickler. It's his way or the highway, and he's very much like the kids don't like him and stuff. But like by this episode, the likes of Dante is backing him and supporting him, and like he could have put Dante's father in prison and stuff, and it feels like such a nice character moment where it's very reflective of everything. And then Kim goes to his room and defends him and says that he was amazing, and then they kiss a bit and they deliver on the whole Kim and Andrew thing. Yeah, it's actually really good. It's a nice way to kind of end this sort of plot point. And again, Jack basically tells Roger and why am I forgetting his name again, Jerry, to basically do one, that it's his school, he'll run it how he wants. They're not happy about it, but ultimately Jack basically says you can take your money and you can sod off, and that's exactly what happens. So in that regard, Jack's like, right, it's my school again. He's riding a high. And yeah, that's sort of how all of Roger and all of the Jerry stuff kind of ends. Other important things from this episode to talk about. So this episode is right. So Andrew tells Jack that he's leaving, that he's handing his notice in, and it's basically effective immediately. Jack naturally kicks the fuck off about this. He basically says, you're leaving me without a deputy, you need to work your notice, you can tell Rwanda that you're staying here until you're done. And then for the rest of the episode, whenever Andrew tries to get involved, tries to help, Jack just basically ignores him or knocks him down and basically says, yeah, you want to help, go to Rwanda. And it's just a bit awkward. But I kind of get Jack's point of view. Jack's already in a difficult position. He's been told he has to get rid of his secretary, this, that, and the other. And Andrew, Jack must feel like there's nobody supporting him. Especially as Kim can kind of see it from Andrew's point of view. And Kim was the one who sort of encouraged Andrew to go in the first place. So there's that. Again, if we talk about a few episodes ago when Miss Dickey just quit on the spot, Andrew was the one who was like, you have to work your notice, and pulled a big huff when she didn't. So it's a bit hypocritical of Andrew to be like, well, gotta go. So, you know, that might be the one flaw to Andrew in this whole sort of arc that he has. But otherwise, I think it's actually quite good storytelling, and it's very good. He basically wants Kim to come with him. So he's like, Kim, come with me to Rwanda. We can make a difference together. And Kim's like, I've got a life. I can't. I've got a house. You stay. And Andrew's like, I can't. I need to go. And Kim's a bit like, well, why is it okay for you to go, but not me? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, the way that this plot is left off, for those watching live, it would have been quite ambiguous because you don't know if Kim's going to go or not. It doesn't answer it in the episode. I thought it did. So, like, at the end of Series 9, see, again, probably for the millionth time, we've got Season 9 mentioned in one of these podcasts. Nikki gets offered to go with Bex and travel, and I think, it might be Berlin? I feel like it's Germany that they go to. And in the end, you see Nikki actually, like, go to Bex, right, are we going then? And they leave. It's kind of like that, but there's no concrete resolution to it until episode 1 of Series 3, where we know that Kim did go to Rwanda. But what's interesting about this point, and it's not really brought up again, but I thought they were going to use it as more of a conflicting character point for Kim, but they don't. And that's that Jack more or less offers Kim Andrew's job. He says, look, I'm going to have to formally advertise it, but you'd be top of the list. So just think about it. And Kim's a bit taken aback. So I thought if Kim had brought that point up and was like, oh, I don't know, I love you, but it just, again, doesn't go anywhere. And I think that's kind of a bit of a kick in the teeth. Yeah. I don't know. I don't mind Kim going with Andrew. I mean, they've been building up this romance for quite a while now, so it does make sense for it. So this is Chloe's 16th birthday, and as we know, the Seddons are dealing drugs. They're the ones that are causing it. Jed Seddon, Gemma, and they get Lewis in on it, but Lewis like messes it up badly, and Jed like assaults him. I actually think that the Lewis getting assaulted scene's really interesting, and I'm kind of glad it happened. Not because I want to see Lewis get hurt, but I think the point they're going for with this episode is like, they're slowly redeeming Lewis, and I kind of think that had Lewis been in it a bit longer, that may be where he was going. I've got two ideas of what they might have done for Lewis, but I might give Lewis his own special, so we'll come back to that. I just think that, like, so I'm trying to think of an example from fiction or pop culture. Okay, so Harry Potter. The first two books depict the Dursleys as being the absolute, like, worst people to Harry. They neglect him, they abuse him, they treat him like shit. And you spend the whole book thinking that Vernon, Petunia, and Dudley are all awful people, which they are. Then we get to Prisoner of Azkaban. And Aunt Marge has been referenced, this, that, and the other. She doesn't sound that pleasant, but then she arrives for a week. And Harry is absolutely dreading it. And then we witness across one of the evenings just how horrible Aunt Marge is. And that in comparison, the Dursleys seem not exactly nice, but like they're the lesser of two evils. So we get that kind of, like, as bad as Lewis has been, and he is sort of the villain of series one, there's no question that Jed is objectively way worse than Lewis. Like, Lewis is a bit soft and a bit of a coward. It's a bit like the modern show. It depicts Shuey Weaver at the beginning as being a bit of a brute and a bit of a villain, like all of the Weavers are. But then we get to his dad, whose name I can't remember at the moment, so I'll just call him Mr. Weaver. And we see how much worse Mr. Weaver and like Beamer Weaver and stuff are compared with Shuey. So as bad as Lewis is, Jed is objectively worse. So that's kind of where things are. Chloe's 16th birthday, Lewis is going around bragging that he's got drugs, and then he basically spikes Chloe's drink. It's Chloe's 16th birthday. She's a bit nervous about her first time with Dante. Ultimately, it goes nowhere, even though for a bit Chloe thinks that Dante took advantage, which he didn't, and that's the right thing to do. It would have completely wrecked Dante if it went the other way, and I don't think you could have him in the modern show now. So that's very good. And I do like the scene where, like, Janice is like, no, Dante got me up to help you and help you get dressed. And then he was like, it was wrong. I wouldn't have done that. Good. But that's what kind of kicks off the whole, like, drug plot point. So Jed basically beats the living crap out of Lewis and basically says that nobody threatens me. At which point, Lewis, who feels done over, went to Jack and basically tells him what they've been up to, tells him where to find the drugs. I need to rewatch the opening to Series 3 just in case there's any reference to it. But I think that this might be, like, Jack gives him the job in the school because he, like, wants to change, or Jack saw this opportunity of him wanting to change and, like, actively tries to help him. But I don't know. So that happens there. And then, so they find the lab where they're making the powder. They did say what it is. I can't remember. My drug lingo is not particularly good. I'm not really a drug person, so I can't really help you with that. And then, Gemma gets arrested. Jed goes out on the run. And it all sort of culminates in the last sort of few minutes. So at the start of the episode, Jack confronts Jed. And Jed's like, oh, you wouldn't want your kids seeing their head teacher getting his head knocked in or whatever. And Jack's like, son, if these kids weren't here, I'd happily go a few rounds with you. And then Jed basically jumps him, at which point Jack fires back. And to be fair, it looks like if he didn't have the knife, it looks like Jack probably would have knocked that fool down. Like, Jack's gritty, and this kind of reminds you of it. So he pulls out a knife, and Jack is like, whoa, hold it, son, and tries to basically defuse the situation before Jed ends up, stabbing him. So he holds the knife out, ready to stab Jack. Izzy realizes that Jack's in trouble, runs to try and help Jack, and she doesn't realize, but she accidentally runs into the knife. At which point, Jed realizes what happens and is like, right, I need to get out of here. So Jed makes a runner for it. And then Jack is like screaming out, calling for help. And that's where it cuts to black. Again, you don't know what Izzy's fate is. So to be fair, during Lorna's episode, I said how it felt a bit deflating because this happened. To be fair, we don't, if this just went out live today, we don't know for sure what happened. So I will cut it a little bit of slack. So there is that. But again, I mean, she does, and the implication's kind of there. So I don't know. I'll leave it up to your own interpretation. So that's Waterloo Road Series 2, and that is the weirdest structured season of the whole show. It should have been 10 episodes. You could have trimmed the fat. You could have got rid of the really stupid Stacy episode and the whole like Tom and Izzy not talking. Get rid of that and you've got a 10 episode run, which is really what I think it should have been. I think 12 is a weirdly structured season and 8's not enough. And I said this for the reboot, the modern show all the time. 8 episodes is not enough. You really, really need 10 to flesh it out. And I don't know why they're not doing 10. Luke said it's probably money, and I don't doubt that money's a factor. But it's not like Doctor Who. They're not relying on tons and tons and tons of CGI. It's a school-based drama. Like, if they, I don't even, you could have less, just have it a lot more take place in the school or something if they can't afford like outdoor scenes or house scenes. Just try to have as much as possible in the school and just, I don't know. Again, I think this season suffers for it being too many episodes, I think, which is, I never thought I'd say that about Waterloo Road, but I think that is the biggest downfall. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the show now. So I'm glad 1 and 2 are out of the way. I don't hate them. I don't think they're bad by any stretch. I've seen both of them now in roughly about 6 months, give or take, and I don't want to watch them again for at least 2 years or so. Like I want a gap, like a big gap. But to be fair, once I've done this whole podcast, I'm probably going to not watch the show regularly. Anyway, I'll have a bit of a break and then just binge it all again a year or 2 later. But yeah, series 3, 4, 5 are like peak. 6A is also good. So I am excited. I won't lie. I'm not looking forward to series 8 or 10. And I'm looking forward to giving the reboot a go. But I feel like Waterloo Road is very comfortable by series 3 onwards. I think series 1 and 2 is sort of the learning curve and they're sort of getting into the groove of things. But from series 3 onwards, with Jack and Rachel and stuff, it hits a good stride and it's very comfortable with its own identity. So I'm hoping I'll have more to say and it'll be more positive going forward. So anyway, that's been the first 2 series. If you're enjoying the podcast, then you know what to do. Like, subscribe, tell your Waterloo Road friends to come and check it out. And I guess we've got a special to go because it's the end of the series. So here's the drill for specials. Every 10 episodes, I'll do a special up until the reboot. And then every series of the reboot, I'll do a special. So I'll do a special. I've got a few ideas in mind for what the special will be. So I'm not going to commit and say anything now. But yeah, so enjoy the special. And then I'll see you all in series 3. This has been Waterloo Road Rewind. You've had Ollie. And I'll catch you next time.